Hello, Mark Crossfield here, and today we're going to do a little bit about release, so club release. We've got Wandy on the shaft here on the end of my club. We're going to talk to you a little bit how the club should release, try and get you guys to understand what release is about and why it's so important to help you hit straight shots. Let's get into it. So, release, club release, you'll see lots of great pictures of world-class players hitting shots as they come through. Their hands are crossing, the club is folding over, it appears. This is known as release. So getting the club to come from this, coming down into impact position where it looks like it's pointing off to the right, moving into the target ball, hitting down the target line so it squares up to the ball, pointing at the target, then turning over. So it gets this feeling of almost closing a door, releasing, turning the club over. Now, for people out there who are hitting shots off to the right a lot, which is a lot of golfers, release is something that they're struggling with. Release is often something they're not even attempting or even beginning to think they need to do. Release is so important to giving you control of your shots. It's so important to trying to get you to turn the club to the target and then even trying to turn the club over, always trying to turn the ball back towards you rather than letting it leak away, which is a common problem. So let's talk a little bit about release. So what is release about? I've got this club here, and I've got this magnet Wandy here stuck on it, so it tells me where the face is pointing at different times. I'm just going to show you something here which people don't really understand. If I put the club up like I'm going to hit a baseball shot, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my body, so I'm going to twist my body that way and twist my body that way, and as I do that I'm going to let the club just come with me, so I'm not going to use my wrists in any way. Watch what happens to the club face. So what happens is it gets this opening and closing effect. So as my body turns, that club in effect is releasing. And this is what people aren't understanding. I'm not standing here just flipping my club over, closing my club as I come through. Even though it might feel like that to you when you try and hit a shot and put some release in, that's not what's happening. What's happening is simply the club is just relating to my hands and my body at different stages in the swing. And because my body is rotating, that means the club is going to point at slightly different directions at different points in the swing. And that, if you apply that down to the ball, what happens as you swing the club is the club will appear to open, so it's now pointing at this wall, come down into the ball, point at the target, and then as I come through, it then goes off, pointing off to the left. So as it comes through, it's coming through and pointing more at this back wall here. So it's giving this appearance, this feeling to some that's open and closing. It's not. It's staying square. It's trying to keep the same relevance to your hands and to your body of where you started. But for lots of you, certainly hitting the ball off to the right, this is something that's going to have to be a bit more conscious, because what you're doing more, so guys who are out there hitting it off to the right, what's happening, regardless of what happens this way, on the way through, you relate your club face more to the target for a long period of time. So what happens is you don't let the club release, get that feeling of turning over, working with your body. It starts separating, going off to the target, and this actually is open. So what I mean by that, if I come through to this position where I feel like that's pointing at the target, then I turn and face that club, this club is now pointing up at the sky. It's open. So even though it felt like it was referencing the target for longer, it's not. As it comes in and hit the ball, it's actually staying open. No intention of turning to the left and just staying open, which drifts the ball off to the right. So look, for you guys to hit straighter shots, you've got to start thinking about release. You want ideally your release to come from how you're turning your body. So what I mean by that, you want to try, if you can, to get the club release coming from the amount of body turn you put on the way through. So what I mean by that, if I come into impact here, what brings that face back to square, what brings that club into impact square is the fact that I'm opening my body, turning into the ball. Don't want to feel too much that I'm flipping my hands. But then if you are someone who hits off to the right and you don't release naturally, you need to play with it. You might need to feel as you're coming down in to hit the ball, you are actually releasing, flipping, turning the club. Now I say feel because that's the important bit. It might feel like it's doing that to you. It physically won't be unless you are starting to hook them left and you are turning it too early or too much. It's just because you're referencing normally your open club face, which feels natural to you, which is why you're losing the ball off to the right. That feeling of getting the club to move with your body will feel like you're flipping it, turning it. It's just more of a case of trying to trust that feeling. So release, it's happening for every good golfer you're watching on the telly. The club face actually only points at the ball for points at the target for a minuscule amount of time during the whole swing. The rest of the time, it's appearing to open and close to the target. It's not. It's just referencing different positions in relationship to your body turn. So at the moment, I'm pointing the club at the target. And I get Wandy on here again. As I make my backswing, just so the club's parallel to the ground, Wandy appears to be putting off at this wall. But if I turn and face that now, what happens is that club is actually still square. It's not twisted. Even though it looks like it has the target, it hasn't. It stayed in the same relationship to my hands and my body turn as it did in the start position. And that will promote a good release, as we know it, and as people call it, which will promote straight shots. So really, guys, for you to be hitting straighter shots, you've got to understand this. You've got to understand that the club is feeling like it's almost opening and closing. If you're someone who loses the ball off to the right a lot, you might need to push that feeling to a bit more of a higher level where you actually feel like you are flipping the club. You won't be, unless you're actually starting to get a few hooks. All you'll be doing is actually putting this release in where you're so used to hitting shots where you anti-release, I call it. You try and do the opposite to a release, which is the cricket kind of hold the club off, which is why the face stays open. Look, post a comment, let me know what you think of this video. I'll be interested in your thoughts. Release is something that's a bit misunderstood with golfers and often maybe not thought about enough. I'll be interested in hearing what you got to say. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.